In today's WVD demo of the day video, we are continuing our discussion on monitoring performance of a WVD environment using the WVD diagnostic data, the Sepago agent, and some of the workbooks that we have created for our customers to be able to manage and maintain the environment. So if we start out by going into monitoring, and go to user sessions dashboard, which is going to open up the Nerdio manager for WVD user sessions dashboard, we'll notice a few enhancements that have been introduced on this dashboard. So number one, we have a chart that shows us the total and active user sessions across either all host pools or individually selected host pools over a selected time range. And this shows us both the total number of sessions and the active sessions. So obviously, this kind of shows you the trend of when people are logging in and logging off, when the sessions are active and not. But it's important to note that whenever you see a gap between the active sessions and the total sessions, that indicates that users are disconnecting rather than logging off. And if you have a persistent gap, you likely are not imposing any policies or timeouts on disconnected sessions. So that is something that is useful to note. If you have gaps between the two graphs, that means that you're wasting resources on disconnected sessions. The second graph we see here is called average WVD connect time across all host pools, using both Fall and Spring API here. And what this is showing us are the session establishment times from the time that the user logs in or opens up their WVD feed to the time that it actually connects the user to a desktop VM, to a session host. How many seconds has passed for the WVD management service to broker that connection? And you can see here there is obviously a trend line and also the average that shows you what is an average of that time. So in my case right here on this demo environment, we have 11-second average WVD connect time, which is pretty decent. The next graph is also extremely useful. It's called the average desktop load time. And this shows you how long it takes from the time the WVD management service has handed off the connection to a desktop session host, to a VM, how long does it take for the user to actually log in? And this is a combination of the time that it takes FSLogix profile to mount, for the group policy to be processed, for any group policy extensions, any scripts, all those things take time to process. And then you can see what the time is for each point, and also see an average over that time. So in this case, we have 6.8 seconds over the last 48 hours is how long it has been taken to see the desktop. So 11 seconds to establish a session, 6.8 seconds to actually see the desktop and the icons and be able to interact with it. The remaining graphs haven't really changed much, but we have two other metrics that have been added, or actually three other metrics that have been added to the session summary by user table. So a couple of things you'll notice is there is now color coding, where you'll see items highlighted in green are obviously in a normal range, yellow is a little bit outside, and red is severely outside of the normal range. You will notice that WVD connect time that we just talked about on a per user basis. So you can actually see what each user is experiencing in terms of their WVD connect time on average across all of their sessions in the selected time period. You can also see information about the average desktop load time also per user on average across all of their sessions within this time period. And then there is a new metric here called average input delay. Now, average input delay measures the responsiveness of an application within the user's environment that does not take into account network latency. So it's a Windows RDP protocol counter that measures from the time the system receives an input, like a mouse click or a keyboard stroke within a specific application, to the time that it replies to that request, how long has passed. And you'll see that these numbers, range from, microseconds to milliseconds, and they will be sort of closely correlated with how busy the system is overall. So for instance, if the CPU is very high, then the average input delay or the user input delay is going to increase. But it should be independent of the network latency, which is what you see in this column. So this column measures the latency between the end user device, so their maybe home device or mobile device that they're connecting from, and the endpoint and the virtual desktop or the virtual machine session host. And then this measures the responsiveness of individual applications. So if we go ahead and we click on one of these users and we scroll down, what we'll see is a more detailed session summary, or actually say session detail, whereas this was a summary and an average across 4 sessions. These are the actual 4 sessions. We can see the desktop load time for each and every one of those sessions. So it's useful to know, when the user logged in on August 12th, how long did it take for the desktop to load? And that's 8 seconds in this case. We will also see the average latency, which measures the network latency on average from the user's device to the virtual machine. And we will also see some additional information about the client device that was being used, whether it was a remote app, etc. So there's some additional info here. And then finally, if there are any failed sessions, those would be listed here as well. So in the user sessions report, we have 3 additional graphs showing us sessions, load time from WVD, and desktop load time, and color coding, as well as that information provided in a more granular way on a per user and a per session basis. Hope you found this useful, and look forward to seeing you in future videos where we're going to go through additional reporting and monitoring dashboards that will make your job of managing a WVD deployment even easier.